Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 28 of the HeartSpace podcast with myself, Jasmine, and my wonderful co-host here, Alicia.
Kia ora, guys.
And as you can see, we have a returning guest today, Spirit Timothy. How are you doing today, brother? And thank you for being here again with us.
Hello, yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be back. It was such a wonderful conversation last time, and I'm hoping that we can repeat that experience and have an even better one.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And today's topic that we wanted to bring you on and discuss is something that I find quite obvious at the moment in terms of what's been portrayed in a lot of our media, I feel particularly on Netflix, but it could be across all spectrums of media. Yeah, within
politics. Yeah.
Yeah, and that being the LGBTQ agenda. And just before we start this conversation, I just want to alliterate that Alicia and I are very accepting of everyone out there, and whatever your sexual preference is, like I don't care what you do behind closed doors, as long as you're a good person,
as long as you've got a good heart,
100%,
got good intentions, then that you're cruising through life. That's beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. So we've got nothing against the LG. What is it? LGD. It's added. It's changed now, isn't it? It's gone so long. Yeah, we've got nothing against that community. Like, basically, this is just a conversation to bring some awareness and what agendas might be at play here. And I'm really glad that you're here to have this conversation. Yeah.
Cool.
So firstly, how have you been? How have you been, and what's been happening for you over in Australia?
Yeah, for me personally, I've been going through a bit, some people know who follow me on TikTok, like videos on there are kind of like a diary entry of my life, and I'm just dealing with my dad's estate and stuff. He passed away recently. So for me, I'm kind of dealing with a lot of personal stuff. In terms of what's going on, I live in Queensland, and things are pretty quiet. Things are pretty quiet here at the moment. It's all about, cost of living, fuel prices, climate change. Things are pretty chill where I am anyway.
Have the mask mandates dropped where you are?
Yeah, there's nothing. I think the only places you have to wear them are like hospitals, aged care facilities. I think when I go into the doctor, they make me wear it. And I kind of just try and hide it underneath my nose a little bit, kind of thing, because I don't want to be a Karen at the doctor when I actually need their help sometimes, but I've had my ups and downs, but overall things are pretty good for me, I have to say, compared to a lot of other people, I think.
So recently I've seen you speak out in regards to the LGBTQ agenda.
I think we need to get that correct, eh? LGBTQ.
Look, they keep adding things, but I think it's LGBTIQ plus.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that.
Sorry, Jazz.
Yes. No, that's okay.
Woke speak.
Exactly that. And, I saw you speaking out in regards to this, and you yourself, are a gay man, you're gay and proud. And so I wanted you to speak on your experience of coming out, and also your, ideas of why you think it is quite, I guess the word's not dangerous, but why this agenda has been so saturated within our media recently. So
I'll probably have to start at the beginning, if you don't mind, from my early childhood, because really that is where it starts. When I was about 3 or 4 years old, I really wanted to have long hair. I was obsessed with having long hair. I was very feminine too. I didn't feel like a girl. I knew I was a boy, but I just wanted to have long hair, and I liked dressing up, and that I was there was a lot of feminine energy coming through. And I used to wear like wigs to kindergarten. Like my dad found a wig, and it was like this blondish kind of brownish wig, and I wore it to shops everywhere, right? And my mum would be like, Tim, you can't wear that to the shop. And I'm like, I'll chuck a tantrum. So she'd be like, okay, I'll just let him wear it to the shop. You know, she would let me wear it to the shop. And I remember wearing it to kindy, and I got teased. The teachers teased me. The kids teased me. It was, I still remember that day, and I can't quite remember it clearly as if I can remember something that happened 2 weeks ago, but I still remember the bullying and the torment for me wearing that wig in kindy. And I didn't want to be a girl. I just wanted to have long hair. And now, if you wore a wig in kindy, it's like you'd be the most popular kid in the class. You know what I mean? How it's turned, I'm only 38 years old, how it's turned in that time is really interesting. How they were able to turn society around so quickly. You know what I mean? And it's like, hang on a minute, something else is at play here. And for me, when I was a child this happened in 1987. So it was kind of, it was a relatively new thing, especially in Australia. And I wasn't identified, I wasn't labeled as trans as a kid, even though when I was wearing that wig and wanted long hair. Even my mum, she said to me, at one point I thought you might be trans, but they thought that everyone just thought it was gay. He's a gay kid, you know what I mean? He wants to wear a wig kind of thing. And if anybody labeled me with anything, but they didn't really label you back then. Whereas now it's almost like if a 3 or 4 year old says, I'm a girl who wants to be a boy, like they affirm it with them now instead of having a wait and see approach, just wait and see how this kind of plays out. Now it's almost like affirming it, and you've got drag queens going into kindergartens saying these things. And I'm telling you that had happened to me at that age, it would have just messed with my head so badly. I wouldn't have been able to, it just would not have helped me. I just know that for a fact, because for me, if I had have had a woke parent at the time, who knows what could have happened to me, because they are giving puberty blockers to 8 and 9 year olds in the UK and 10 year olds. I don't know about in this country, but they're definitely doing it in the UK through Tavistock.
To me, this might sound strong to people, but to me, that is child abuse. They're still at a young, impressionable age, and children don't know who the hell or what they want to be at this point in time. It's far too young, and there is some danger to this, to introducing so much of the agenda, I guess, or just different facets of it to the young, impressionable mind, especially with the drag queen stuff too. Like, I know in America they do like a drag queen story time session. But my question is, why do drag queens want a child audience?
I think that they genuinely come from a kind place. This is all about tolerance, acceptance, kindness. At the front of that's what they say this is all about, right? And in some ways it is, but like, I'll give you an example, right? So it is a real thing. Like, I have known trans people since I was 11 years old, and a friend of mine, I'll tell you a story. So a friend of mine, I'm not friends with them anymore because they basically transitioned into a woman and disowned everybody they used to know, right? That's the end of the story. But I'll go back to the beginning. So this person was in a relationship with one of my friends of mine. He was living a life as a gay man in a relationship with one of my friends. And then he decides he wants to be a woman. And he explained to me that when he was like 3 or 4 years old, he would be like in the bath or the shower, and I'll try and be, not too descriptive here, but he would, as a kid, you explore yourself and stuff like that. And he thought he was meant to be a girl, and he thought it wasn't meant to be there. He was like, this is not meant to be here. Like, I'm meant to be a girl. And he said that he had these memories, right? Now, they really had that experience. And it's kind of like, I can resonate with it, because when you're discovering that you're gay, it's kind of a similar thing. And if you don't allow the puberty process to take place and those hormones to happen naturally, because it's not just about sexual organs and stuff like that. It's your hair, your skin, your bones, like, all those hormones and puberty are a crucial development stage in anyone's life. And anyone who's a scientist or a doctor will tell you that, those ages of puberty are so important. And this person went through that or whatever, and then has come to that decision later on, right? And they started identifying as a woman, and we supported them. We supported this person. And but then obviously the relationship had to break up because this person didn't want to be with a woman. They were a gay man and wanted to be in a gay relationship with this person, decided they wanted to be a woman, right? So started dressing as a woman, and then this person had to go to an event where she had to dress as a boy again to go to like a wedding in her family. And she was so traumatized this day having to dress as a boy again that she went home, drank a bottle of vodka, downed some pills, put an elastic band around her part and chopped her own testicles off.
Wow.
And we got a call saying this has happened, and we all had to rush to the hospital and see what the hell was going on. So I've seen the trauma that these people go through. Like, it is real. You know, the trauma is real. And these experiences that these LGBT people go through are real. And I want people to understand that. You know, it's not just, there's not Disney psyoping people. This is real.
Yeah.
It happens. And what they don't understand is that they're confusing the spirit with the physical. Because if we teach children that perhaps the reason why you feel this way is because you've had past lives and you've had many incarnations as a female, and now you come in as a male, and it's confusing for you. But at the same time, your body avatar is created from your spirit, and you chose this experience. And for you to want to change your body, you're telling me this at 8 years old or 9 years old, you're my child, 3 or 4 years old, we can talk about this. But what I'm not going to do is allow somebody to affirm this and put you on life-altering medication that's going to change your life. That's irreversible. That's what's not happening here. That's the conversation that I would have if I had a transgender child.
Wow.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. And you've just given me a whole different, higher perspective, honestly. It's just even making me look at things differently and how I've been viewing the whole agenda, because, you know, I just want people to know that, you know, it's okay that the media is portraying more gay and lesbian characters and transgender characters. But what I fear is when it's so disproportionate, I guess, you know, it's in every show. And one show in particular I want to highlight is I watched the new series, the reboot of Heartbreak High. And nearly every character out of the main characters were either bisexual, lesbian, or gay. And I just thought that's so disproportionate in a TV shows. Like, and the question I wanted to ask you is, why do you think that they are, I guess, there's this disproportionate angle that's coming out within these TV programs?
I think what it does, it distorts, separates people further into labels. And what they want to do is take you further away from what, not only who you really are, but what you really are.
Yes.
So if we cut the labels out of it and say, well, hang on a minute, we are all spirit having a human experience. The sexuality, the gender is an experience. It's not who and what you are. But people get stuck in the body, in the 5 senses, and they start identifying as these 48 different freaking genders when we're all spirit having a human experience. Let's cut it down. Once you just talk about that, it takes all the arguments out of it. And it's like me saying to you, imagine if I said to a black person, oh, I really feel like I'm a black person. Can you please make me black? Imagine if I was allowed to turn black. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm white. I have to deal with it. I'm white. I can't turn black because I'm white.
We've got to draw a line somewhere too.
But I'm spirit having a human experience. I'm not actually that white person that you see. If I identify as that person, I'm getting to the ego and identifying in the body, in the flesh. And that is what they don't want you to know. That's why they're trying to divide, and that's why it's in the media, because they want to confuse a whole generation so that we separate divine, masculine and feminine into this whole distortion and confusion, so that it further confuses people and takes them away from that spiritual element of all of this and getting in touch with who and what you really are, that eternal being that's outside the physical 5 senses, that's not transgender, that's not gay, that's not lesbian, that's not black, that's not white, that's not a man or a woman.
Well said, honestly.
I'm just like,
honestly, that was
it's
really well said.
But that's where we need to go.
And you know, we've got to draw the line somewhere, because what I saw just the the other day was a young lady. She looked about in her 20s that chose to identify as a cat, and what her school had actually done is allowed her to be a cat within the environment around the other children. And I find that this is dangerous because
I find that very unhealthy.
To me, it's mental illness, and it shouldn't be encouraged. And when we start blurring those lines, because a lot of people would argue too with the whole LGBTQ plus agenda, is that eventually there's going to be a P added to that, P for pedophile, and the grooming kids as such, to normalize sexuality, because it's not only is this agenda saturated in the media, we've also got just sexuality in general, like
it's everywhere.
Everywhere.
It's everywhere. And like, I'm quite disgusted, to be quite honest with you. Like,
and it's like, let's throw in a couple of animals in there too, like people that think they're animals. Again, it's all about the confusion, like you were saying, to take you away from the human spirit, that compassion that we should all house as, as humans having a human experience.
And I think if I would ask that person who was identifying as a cat, I would say, okay, so let's subscribe to this for a second. Okay, you want to identify as a cat. Okay, that's fine. So how as a cat can you contribute to helping others in society? How as a cat can you contribute in this world then as a cat? Or do you just want to lay around and drink milk all day? Well, what's going on here? Do you know what I mean? Like, how does that actually fit into society and how everybody wants to interact with each other? Because if I'm going to treat you like a cat, does that mean I can kick you out of my yard if you come and you know what I mean? Like, some people kick cats. Like, some people don't treat cats very nicely compared to humans. You know what I mean? So what is this really about? Like, this is insane. Like, this is actually, you're right. Like, it's at a level that, like, I don't understand where people's heads are at. Like,
I agree. Because I get confused as well. Because like, now society, to me, what I see is you can identify as anything you like. And if someone tells you, no, you are not that, then it's like everyone gets like offended. It's like, no, allow them to be who they are. Like, I fully support allowing a being to be exactly who they are, but not to an extreme, to extreme lengths where it doesn't even make sense. Like, there was a student counselor on placement, and one of the clients identified as a clown, and
as a what?
A clown.
A clown. Right.
A clown. And, after doing a bit of work or something with this, the student counselor was like, you know what? No, not doing this. And, the student counselor was completely removed because they did not allow this person to identify as a clown. And I'm just like, wow, okay. Like, this is how serious it's become. Like, you can't. You know what I mean?
Like, where do we draw a line?
Where is it at? Because it's just going beyond ridiculous, in my opinion. I feel quite strongly about this because it makes no sense. Society is confused. Like, everyone is snowflakes like these days. It's like, oh, I identify as this. Oh, but you don't look like it. Oh, then they get really upset and offended, and there's all this hoo-ha going on, and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Do you want to touch on your post, Alicia, in regards to Scooby-Doo? Because that really
that triggered me.
Had you going the other day. Yes.
Yes. So what I'm getting really tired of is like all these old movies, all these old programs that we used to watch when we were kids, they're now sexual. It's always been sexualized somewhat, like, if you know, you know, but nowadays,
it was very subliminal back then, though. It wasn't as
very.
obvious.
So Scooby-Doo.
I didn't realize what was going on as a kid.
No. Scooby-Doo. I think it's Velma, the one with the orange. Was the orange in the glasses?
Yeah, the orange bob in the glasses. Yeah.
So now Velma's a lesbian.
Right.
She's just come out.
The thing is, I don't need to know. At 4 years old, I don't need to know. Like,
exactly.
I knew I was different at 3 and 4 years old. Like, I remember not being happy at 4 years old. I was being bullied so much, and I just didn't even know what I was doing here. And I said, what am I doing? Who am I? What am I? Like, I didn't know about sex at 4 years. And if somebody had said to me, you're a gay kid at 4 years old, it would not have been helpful. You know what I mean? And I probably didn't know what gay people were until, maybe a bit later. Like, I think I first found out what gay was at like maybe 9 or 10 or something like that. But you're talking 3 and 4 year olds watching these shows. That is mental programming at a level that is so dangerous. And we don't even know the psychological implications of that. That hasn't been happening for long enough. We don't know what's going to happen with all of this. But I think that, our parents used to call it the idiot box for a reason. And, their parents, when TV is television, tell them a vision and get them to accept it. And I only realized because I probably came into it like in the 80s of the, after the AIDS scare and stuff, into the 90s, and then I saw, like, I remember the first gay show that I ever watched was the original Queer as Folk, right? And I'm 16 years old and I'm house sitting at my auntie's house because they've gone overseas for a month. And I'm seeing this show Queer as Folk, and I'm also able to get into nightclubs and stuff. So like, I was like, oh my God. And that was kind of like pretty close to the bone of what a lot of gay people are like. Like, they do go out partying. They do take a lot of drugs. There's a lot of sex. The lifestyle is, when you're young and stuff like that, it's not the same as straight people a lot of the time. It's a different world. And when a drag queen kind of like put it, she said, when you go out and watch a drag show, it's sexualized, it's sexy. Like, it's not just it's a performance, and it's a lot of there's sexual innuendos in it.
Some of them wear
lingerie.
lingerie.
For children. It's not for children. And we don't need to, like, I'm not saying that we can't teach children that, yes, there are gay people in the world, there are men who are attracted to men and women who are attracted to women. That's just the way it is. But we're just spirit having those experiences. That's not the whole of who and what people are. It's just a very small part. And it just is what it is. You just accept that and let it go. But because that's different from, the P word where you're abusing, or, even where you're identifying as a cat. It's like, hang on a minute. That's actually destructive to society. Like, what are we meant to do with all these freaking cats then? Like, you know what I mean? What do you want me to do with you as a cat? Like, how do you expect me to interact with you? That's outrageous.
Well, I just wanted to touch on too, because I did see a clip about a month ago of the first drag kid. I don't know if you've seen this kid. He was about 11 years old. I think his name was Desmond. They had him on the Good Morning show in America, and so he came out in full drag attire. He had a couple of drag mentors with him, and the audience was just like so into it, applauding it. The hosts were applauding it, and I just felt very sad for this kid who's been put on parade. And I must say, like, this is just purely speculation from what I was seeing, but this kid looked out of it. He didn't look like he was there. And I thought he was on something because of the way he was responding. I can't confirm that. Just from, this is just only my observation. And I just felt like that was so dangerous, like how it's been encouraged, how he's been applauded. And he was dressed quite skimpy too, like going back to that sexual attire. Like he had a little crop top on and this tutu, and he came out and he was very proud of himself. But I thought, like, oh my gosh, the parents that are allowing this, it's just, in my opinion, it's just too young.
To me, this is cringy shit. Like, I'm just gonna say it. Like, to me, it makes me cringy. It makes me cringe. Like,
and just the fact that adults were cheering him on. The adults.
Let kids be kids, man.
It's
funny,
they
figure themselves out.
When I was young, if I had had the opportunity to get on a TV show and a dress, I probably would have done the same thing, because that's where the manipulation happens. Like, because you don't necessarily want to be a woman, but you because your sexuality is gay, you're more feminine. A lot of gay men are more feminine, so they want to express that femininity through dressing up and stuff like that. And if it's theatrical and it's a show, like, adult drag shows are really good, like, they're and really fun sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, and I love going to adult drag shows, but when you then identify as that and it becomes a whole big thing, that's where you're taking people away from who and what they really are. Your spirit having this experience, everybody's different. We're allowed to express in those sorts of ways. But when it becomes an agenda that's sexualizing children, and it's like getting younger and younger and younger, it's like, well,
and it is.
We don't need 3 and 4-year-old boys in dresses on TV. Like that's not where we need to go. I'm not saying that you can't do that, and we shouldn't have places where adults can dress up and perform. Like some women like to dress up as a man too sometimes. Like, you know, it's some women do that. Like I've seen that too, drag kings or whatever. It's not, if it's part of a show and part of a performance, I think that's a bit different. You know, that's like playing a character. That's like acting or whatever. You know, that's kind of just fun and just entertainment. That's different. But when you're bringing it into the school, and it's like 3-year-olds don't know the difference, and you know, when it's like they're in those skimpy outfits, like, you know, it's just it's subliminally sexualizing people too early, and we don't.
100%.
That's where we go wrong, because the cabal want to get you into the lower chakras, that sexual body, identifying with the body all the time, so that you never expand out from that and get into the higher realms of vibration where we create reality and things like that. They just want to style up you into, oh, I'm a tramp. It's like, well, hang on a minute. That's not actually what you are. That's the experience that you're having. There's a big difference.
Can I also just add, you know, looking at Hollywood, looking at world leaders like politicians, you know, the elite. Now we know a lot of them are born male and look female these days, and this hasn't been like exposed to us. This is stuff that we've figured out as we have gone down the rabbit hole. You've got in Hollywood, there's a lot of that, and vice versa. You've got the Hollywood mothers, some of them, you know, they've got these children and they're allowing them to, at a very, very young age, dress, you know, so you can see where like the agenda they're helping push that agenda
through the culture.
And like, you know, you've got Big Mike, Michelle, like say Obama, like, and all these, there's so, and I have to say this, it surprised me, even like looking through, you know, the stars in Hollywood, and sort of when you see that these beautiful women are actually men, it's absolutely mind-blowing and surprising. But see, they've been born and bred into it, and this has all happened since they were very little, and I think that's when they were put on all those drugs and everything. So this is something that has been going on for such a long time, and now I feel like it's really coming to the surface to really push that agenda. And to be honest, I'm going to say to really kind of screw society and confuse people. And
I think where it's ultimately going, all of this is, it's actually a very anti-human agenda, which affects us all, because when you take that individuality away from it, where you're like, well, no one's a gender anymore, no one's a sexuality anymore, no one's a man or a woman, you become an androgynous human, and you lose your identity completely.
Absolutely.
You know? And all these trans people are out there going, well, I identify as a trans person. Like, well, soon it'll be, well, no, you're not even allowed, everyone's just androgynous now. And that's where they're going, because human 2.0, like there's a lot of people who actually like the IVF industry has gone through the roof since the 70s, right? And I've even seen cabal programs on TV that say, oh, we might be having babies in artificial wombs and stuff soon, right? Where women won't even be able to give birth. And that is where this is going, this human 2.0. It's actually a very anti-human agenda, where it'll be no sexuality, no gender. And that is not where we want to go as a human species. I'm telling you, it's not.
No, I already feel that in my stomach. I'm like, no, thank you. I don't want to be part of that kind of society.
And the normalization of the P word, putting that, like the maps, the minor attracted person or whatever, so that we then like, oh, you know, that's somehow normal. But that is not like,
It's not
acceptable ever. And I think
yeah.
I just wanted to touch on the pronouns because it kind of ties in with the dehumanizing of people. Like when you stop identifying as your sex, like his and her, him and she, it takes away your sexuality in some sense. So I just kind of wanted to touch on your opinion with the pronouns. Do you agree with them, and do you know anyone that identifies with them? Because I just wanted to add with what you were saying, Alicia, in terms of celebrities kind of endorsing this whole agenda. We had J-Lo come out with her daughter because her daughter now wants to be known as they. So that's just an example. As they. She wants to be they, not he or she, but they or them.
I don't even understand that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What's they? Like I actually don't.
It takes that sexuality away from the picture, I guess.
Neither she nor he. Is it just?
They're just I think it's called gender neutral.
So they say like they're non-binary, so they're not a male and they're not a female, which is kind of where I'm going with the spirit having the human experience, but it's still distorted because you're putting it in the body. This body is a non-binary body. I'm neither male or female. Bullshit.
Well, you're living in the physical world, and unfortunately, biology.
Chromosomes. Yes. There's biology involved, undisputable biological facts involved here that are undisputable and unchangeable.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter.
Thank you.
It doesn't matter what I do with my body. I'm still going to have X and Y chromosomes. I can physically take all the hormones I want, turn myself into a woman, and I can look absolutely stunning. In fact, I'm sure I would. But I would still be a man. That's just the truth.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
Because
it's true. You can't deny that. That's
and
fact.
When you go, well, hang on a minute, I'm spirit having a human experience. I just happen to be incarnated as a man. That takes a lot of confusion out of it. When you really look at it from that level and teach people that from when they're a very young age, your spirit having a human experience. Yes, when you talk about intersex people who are born with both body parts, that's where it becomes even harder because I've met a hermaphrodite too when I was like 16. And that was really spun me out. I was like, oh my God. And they were like, I don't really live a normal life because it's very hard for me because I physically have both body parts. Imagine that. Nobody really talks about that, but there's a lot of that. That's the intersex letter, but that isn't spoken about a lot. But imagine like those people have if I actually have all my body parts and I just mentally decide that's actually all just in your head. That's not a physical thing. Do you know what I mean? And that we have basically made a psychological problem into a medical problem where we go, okay, well, if you feel like a boy or a girl, we'll confirm that for you and give you all these drugs, life-altering drugs to change your life. And then there's a lot of people who regret doing it, like they're called detransitioners.
I was just about to say that. Yeah,
they're coming out and saying, hey, I was psyoped, and they've come to the realization that they had to accept what they were born into and not try and be somebody else because it didn't actually make them happy.
100%.
I was wondering if there would be some people out there that would regret their transition and sort of having to live with that choice and how they would be coping with it. I mean, I don't know if you can. I sound so naive about this, but I don't know if you can go back. I with certain things like birth hormones. Like
it depends when you do it. If you do it before puberty, it's irreversible. And like I was watching a program about it because I did a bit more research coming into this, and there was a doctor saying they're basically trying to say to you that you can just pause puberty for a couple of years and then decide later to have no effects on your body. She's like, as a medical doctor, how that makes any logical sense to me is beyond my comprehension. Like that is just not true. You know what I mean? And it does irreversible things to your body if you do it before. I believe that if you do it, like if I started turning into a woman, I could go back, but it still has long-term effects on your body. And when you talk about somebody who's actually had, so when you go male to female, right, and you have basically they use your penis and they split it in two and turn it into a vagina.
Yes, I've actually seen that. I don't know what on, but I have seen the process, and it's actually quite fascinating how they can do that.
What happens is you've got to have something, you've got to constantly put something in there because your body is trying to heal that hole that's
Yeah.
not meant to be there. And it's actually quite traumatizing for a lot of people because some of them don't have any sexual feeling afterwards. So they go through all this stuff and then it's like they can't even have sex properly, but they still have to stick this thing in themselves to just even stay, and can get infected. There's so many issues that can happen.
And see, these conversations, like in terms of the side effects, I know that someone was trying to post on YouTube and speak out in regards to their own story and how they had regrets, and it kept getting censored. So a lot of this is a lot of the I guess big tech doesn't want people to know that the health implications, the mental implications this all has on someone's psyche. Like it's not an easy procedure, like you were saying. It can be very traumatizing. There's, I guess, a lot of counseling would be involved in it too. But
there's not though. The programs that people go through, they basically have, like the way what I've seen happens is, and people who've gone through it have spoken about it, not in Australia but overseas, and they're like, they basically affirm it for you. So they kind of ask you questions, but it's almost like one guy said they wanted me to have the surgery more than what I did. They were like almost pushing me, because you got to remember, nobody really talks about this, but those puberty blockers, big pharma's involved in this, and they are profit makers. They don't care about people's health or people's human rights. They care about how much money they can make. So imagine if they can get, 5,000 kids a year on these puberty blockers for the rest of their life. That's money.
I'm glad you highlighted that, because that is another really good point. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
That's part of the agenda too. There's many tentacles to the agenda. It's not just one thing, and that's why it's so hard. And it's hard for trans people too, because they're going through this experience. And when, you see, I put a video up of somebody who was a trans person on TikTok, right? And it's been exposed that they've had P material on their laptop and they're currently incarcerated, right? And that actually makes all trans people look bad. And I feel bad for them, because they're not all, it's like trying to label all gay men the P word. Like I've had that put on me too, and I remember there was a friend of mine on TikTok. He said, oh, you should maybe become friends with this gay kid who's on TikTok. He does some really good videos. He's awake, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I would, but that could be interpreted in a way that I don't want to be interpreted. What do you mean? I'm like, people could accuse me of anything by just being friends with someone on TikTok of a certain age. And she's like, oh my God, I never thought of it like that. And I'm like, yeah, you've got to be real careful what you can be labeled with, especially when you identify, as a spirit having a gay man experience. Just put it that way. You know what I mean? So you have to be careful. But I feel sorry for people who genuinely, but I believe that if they got some spiritual teachings and looked at the spiritual element to all of this, their whole perspective on their life would change and they would not feel the same way. And if we educated trans people on the spiritual element of past life incarnations and why this may be happening to you and talk about that, it would be very helpful and very healing for these people. And I'd love to be able to do that if I could.
That is beautiful. That could be your calling. That could be your next calling. Yeah.
I'm sitting here and I'm just taking it all in, because there is so many elements to this, like you said. And for me personally, what I'm getting sick of is seeing our politicians. I don't get why they are flying and for whoever might be watching this, please don't take this to heart, but I don't get why Parliament are flying a rainbow flag. It's Parliament. It's our government. What have you got to do with it? What is going on here? The media, they're pushing it. I feel like it's almost not accepted to be straight. Or if you're a straight person and have some sort of opinion about all this, it's oh, well, and I'm kind of, you kind of feel a little bit
what the cabal do is they pick a group to demonize at one time. So when I was a teenager, it was demonizing, the amount of demonization and trauma that I've suffered in this lifetime from having this sexual experience is it was hard, very difficult, and straight people don't go through that. But they've now turned it against them, where it's now it's and especially white straight men are copping it bad, real bad, in terms of
And it
demonizing.
shouldn't be like this.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like that, but that's what's happening. But then they're coming after women next. So it's like, if a straight woman says, hang on a minute, I don't agree with the trans stuff, they're like, oh, you're transphobic, you're homophobic.
Yeah.
They're starting to label the mothers
100%.
transphobic. It's like, hang on a minute. And I'll probably will maybe caught some people in the community who watch this video might label me. They're like, oh, he has internal homophobia. Sometimes I've been accused of, I was dating a normally psychologist who accused me of being internalized homophobia. And I'm like, I don't judge myself or think that I'm a bad person for having this experience. It is what it is. I accept it for what it is. I don't have any homophobia. I don't have any transphobia either. I'm in this community, but I'm telling you, we are spirit having a human experience. And these labels are psyoping and confusing people. Yeah. And if I don't talk about this and tell the truth about it as a part of this community, I would be negligent and I would be doing the wrong thing by the people who I'm meant to be in the community with. You know, it would be the wrong thing to do by them.
One thing I kind of wanted to touch on too is the whole, so we have like Gay Pride Month. I don't know if it's a month here in New Zealand. I think it might be a week, but in America they do Gay Pride Month and they do the big parade. And what I don't understand in terms of the parade, like, and it goes back to what you're saying, is they highlight the physical being like what they're physically wearing with the outfits. It's very outrageous. And it's all, you know, like even wearing strap-ons to a point. We did see Christina Aguilera performing at one of these LGBTQ parades, and on stage she was wearing a strap-on.
Yeah.
Again, it's so sexualized where it takes away the spiritual aspect of what it may feel like to love a man, loving a man and being in a committed relationship. You know, it takes away that I guess the specialness of what a relationship is, because they're kind of like not glamorizing it, but making it look like all gay people do care about is sex, you know? It's
and getting all like kinky and funky, you know, like outrageous with each other. Yeah,
instead of like just that, you know, there are gay people that want families that are, you know, have like a nice family unit, and they want to raise a child, you know. So there's like one extreme to the next in these parades. And why do you think it's portrayed like that? We're just focusing on that sexual element.
Yeah, I think it's glamorizing it to the point where it's almost like you want to be a part of it,
because it looks like one big party. Like in my 20s, I'd probably want to join in, but now I'm like,
but the reality of it's actually not the case. Like they're creating a fantasy for you.
Yes.
They're selling it to you, you know, as part of all these other agendas. It's not actually really about that at all. But I'll give you an example. Like if you're a gay guy who is fat, for example, right? Like let's say you're quite a big gay guy and you're not like a good look with the muscles and all that. The amount of like stigma in the gay, like the amount of crap that they get from gay people themselves who are meant to be all accepting and all inclusive and stuff like that. I'm like, well, try be a fat ugly guy at Pride and see how you get treated, because you won't get treated very nicely by a lot of people. Like some people will be like, oh yeah, I'm on the, because now they're like, oh, don't body shame anybody, and it's kind of like they've inverted that too. But really they're not very tolerant of each other. You know, they're not actually we're not actually it's quite a toxic community in a lot of ways. I'm not saying that it isn't good, and I've had lots of good gay friends and had a community of gay people, but there's a lot of toxic elements in the community. There's a lot of drug use. There's a lot of you know, sex stuff that goes on, you know, a lot of promiscuity, you know, that no one really talks about. Like they pretend it doesn't exist, and it's like, well, hang on a minute, it does. Like, and you know, nobody talks about that part of it. They all want to pretend that it's all kind of this fabulous fun lifestyle, when we're just normal people who, you know, want the same lifestyle as everybody else, but don't need to be put on show and paraded as if like I remember, I'll give you an example, right? I was at a wedding once, and the bride, who was a friend of mine, was like, oh, a song coming, they're like, oh, do a dance. Like they wanted me to perform for them because I was gay, and they're like, oh, you should know how to dance, you're gay. Like, and so I was like, hang on a minute, don't put me on show like a gay
so
monkey.
offensive,
like, you know, and I'm like, it made me feel like, hang on a minute, you're like, no, no, I just want to sit down and have a drink, like, you know, or go outside and have a freaking, you know, a smoke or something. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to perform. Like, I enjoy it sometimes, but when it's like, I mean, it almost becomes like they're putting you on as a spectacle because, hang on a minute, like, I'm just like you. I just happen to have sex with dudes. Okay, that's all it is. Like, let's not. And I'm still spirit having a human experience. Like, you know, let's not make too much of a big deal out of this. Like, getting ridiculous. You know?
Yeah.
This has been such a great conversation today because, like, and this is like, this is all part of, I guess, this is one of the tentacles that come off this whole great awakening, you know, topic. And, you know, I think you're the perfect candidate to have this conversation with. I've learned so much about, you know, I've got like about the, you know, through the conversation that we've had today. And I feel like I'm going to leave this conversation and with a different kind of perspective, a higher perspective. I just feel like it's a very important topic that needs to be discussed more of, that people need to be educated about. And I feel like we've done it in a way that's respectful today. And I hope that people, don't get offended and look at the bigger picture of what we're trying to, you know, portray in this whole particular episode. But is there any final words that you wanted to say before we wrap this up? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that to anyone that watches this, for me, this conversation has been like, I'm literally sinking in my seat and just taking it all in. It's been mind-blowing. I know I come across like quite like stern about things and like I don't want that shoved down my throat, and why is Parliament flying a rainbow flag but yet it can't even help its own people, you know, when we really need, like, just it's all those kind of things. So there's the perspective, but I actually have known some gay people. I have met quite a few transgender people, and honestly, like, I just see them as humans. As they are, and that's it. And I appreciate for people for who they are. It's just the overall agenda that needs that awareness. And so this conversation has been great. Like, it has been great. So thank you so much for coming on and having this discussion.
That's all right. And what I will say as a part of this community, you know, to anybody who's watching this is, you know, don't allow yourself to be used as a pawn anymore. You know, I think the thing that I get angry about and frustrated about is the fact that I was used as a pawn, and all that bullying that I went through at high school. It's like, hang on a minute. Now suddenly you all had a vote and it's okay for me to get married now. The trauma that I went through, like the bullying and stuff, like, you can't just turn around and say, oh, we accept that you're gay now, so you can just forget all about all of that. I'm like, no, hang on a minute. No, like, no, this is not okay. You can't just flip the switch on me like this and be like, you know, I'm like this. And that's when I realized that I was used as part of a bigger agenda. And that's why I want to go back to, we are spirit having a human experience. And when you look at it from that perspective, we don't need to argue about that. Who can argue about that? Like, we don't need, there's no division in that. There's no religion in that. There's no worshipping some external God in that. We are spirit having a human experience from the one source of consciousness. And if we educate people on that truth, the whole thing can change. The whole world can be a different and a better place for everyone, including the people in my community. And, you know, we can come together as one human species instead of dividing everybody into black, white, man, woman, gay, straight, and all these other 48 different genders I want to divide people into now. It's just, that's not where we need to go. Sorry, I'm rambling, but
no, you're fine.
That's a great way to finish this interview. And just a reminder that, you know, it is another facet of that whole divide and conquer tactic that they are using this agenda for. So thank you so much for being here today. Honestly, it's been a real pleasure. And I just want to say to the audience, thank you for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel or hit the like button below and share this content with people you know would resonate with this type of kōrero. But thank you guys for tuning in, and much love to you all. I was going to say we have a new slogan.
Yes,
I'll let Alicia say that for us.
if I can remember it, stay bold, stay beautiful, and stay true to you. That's the one. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I was addicted to Bold and the Beautiful when I was a teenager. I used to love Stephanie and Brooke. Bold and the Beautiful, the show, the soap
I remember
opera.
that. Yeah. Awesome.
I'll let you go.
Ka kite, guys.
Bye-bye.